everybody, welcome to the channel, and today I'll be showing you all how to make a little arachknit. In order to make this arachknit, you will need some yarn in your main color, your side color, and a couple of different colors for the primary eyes. This is not necessarily going to be the color that I use for the eyes. I just needed something for an example. Some buttons, two specifically for the button eyes. I did not open this package because I'm not sure yet what I'll need specifically. Your hook. It should be whatever size works best with the yarn you chose. This one specifically asks for a 6.5mm hook. This is a 5.5mm hook. I'm going to try this and see if it works. If it doesn't, I'll go up one more size, just to be sure. A styrofoam ball. This is for the display yarn ball. Some pins and needles, some stuffing, a bobby pin or something in order to keep track of your stitches. And if you do like what I did with my arachknit, you will also need a boba straw. Because this guy, if you look carefully, he's got a straw through him. I use this so that I can feed some yarn through this little guy, and then basically it's his yarn ball, but he is letting me use his yarn. You can use whatever colors you want. The original arachknit is actually in a couple shades of blue, with brown eyes, I believe. And even in the game where the guys came from, Spirit City, they have several different colors. Several different color designs. One of them is actually rainbow, though not like this. We're going to start with the body. Okay. With your primary color, you're going to start with a magic ring. And for this part, how the body starts depends entirely on if this is supposed to be a yarn feed or not. I asked my sister if she wanted it to be a yarn feed. She doesn't. So I will be following my just a Plushy instructions. I'll be starting it with a magic ring of 6. If it was going to be a yarn feed, I would start with a magic ring of 12. I'll just quickly make that magic ring of 12, even though I'm not doing it. But then before it's tightened, you would take the boba straw, put it in the middle, and then pull it tight around the straw. And then you would proceed basically from row 3 of the main Plushy version pattern. Because basically the straw is serving as the true magic ring of 6. But since I'm not doing that, I can gently undo all of this again. Okay. So you have that magic ring of 6. And then pull tight. Row 2 is going to be 6 increases, bringing us up to 12 stitches. So I'm not going to put the marker in just yet, because this one's easy. Let's see. Counting backwards from my hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm working into this one. I can do standard increases, but I'm going to do invisible increases, where the first stitch, the increase, is through the front loops only. And then the second is through both loops. So I can find both loops. Okay, for this one I'm going to be a little funky. This first stitch I'm going to be funky and just work through the back loop. So that's 2. You can do standard increases, I'm just using invisible ones. And at this point, this is going to be when I put in the marker. Just to help me keep track. And from here, it doesn't matter if we're talking about the version that's a yarn feed or a version that's just a plushie. The instructions are the same. Row 3 is going to be working 3 into 1 stitch. Now I've taken to doing this in a little bit of an odd way. You can do this with 3 increases, 3 standard increases into 1 stitch, but I've taken to stitch into the front loop, find the back loop here, stitch into the back loop, and then a stitch, so I can get it to fit, a stitch through both loops, there, tuck it, because I need to make sure I'm not losing this stitch. So that was one of them, so now I've got to do 2 more, and then I'll be doing 3 single crochet. And now, the 3 single crochet. Three. And now I need to do that again. And then 3 single crochet back to the start. Leaving you with 24 stitches. And the reason for this is because the body is supposed to more or less... Okay, so the reason for doing this is because the body is more or less supposed to be an oval. Yeah, the face is an oval. Row 4 is going to be 3 repeats of, make sure I'm stitching into the correct spot, 3 repeats of a single crochet, three single crochet into the same stitch, and this time I'm going to use the standard because it's a little bit easier. 1, 2, 3, and then a single crochet. Do this twice more. Single crochet. Three single crochet. and then doing all of that again. And then 3 single crochet back to the start, leaving you with 36 stitches in your round. Now if you're using the straw, if you're making the yarn feeder and you're using the straw, this is about the point where I would remove the straw from the center just for the sake of working on it. By this point, your oval, your magic ring will be stable enough that it'll hold the shape even if the straw's not there. Row 5 is actually going to be a tiny bit different. If you notice, I am experiencing a little bit of drift. And you may have to make adjustments as well, depending on how bad your drift is. Because before, the end of my row had been back here, more or less. Now it's closer to the middle of the oval. So I'm going to shift where the increases fall, because I still have to make 4 more increases. So I'm going to do 1 single crochet, and then I'm going to do 3 repeats of 2 single crochet, three single crochet into the same stitch, and then 2 single crochet, and do that twice more. Two. Three across. And then same thing. And then single crochet back to the start of our round. Leaving you with 48 stitches in your round. Now if you didn't have drift, you can just, if you didn't have drift, you can just follow the instructions that I'll have on screen right up here. Flatten it out as best you can. And yeah, that's looking pretty decent oval. The next 13 rows, so rows 6 through 18, you're just going to be doing 48 single crochet around for a combined total of, oh shoot, math, 624 stitches. 480, and here I'm going to take a brief time out and show, yeah, this is the kind of drift I have. Here's where I'd started, and here's where the end of my row is. That's normal. I will pause here and count to make sure I still have 48 stitches in my row. 47, 48, yep. And I am going to move my stitch marker at this point. And just redo my math, rather than continue trying to count up to whatever huge number I'd said. And instead, let's see, I still have 3 more rows to go, 144. There. Now I'll put this in here. And at this point, we got our shape. It's a little lumpy, but some stuffing can fill that out into the shape it's supposed to be. Yep. And now it's time to decrease off. Now, if you were making a yarn feed arachknit with the straw, this would be the point where you put it into place. You would pick a spot on one of your long sides where you want it to emerge. And then when you reach that point, say this stitch, then when you reach right before it, you would skip this stitch, instead chain 1 and go over the straw. And single crochet into the next one in line. And then that would be your new stitch. This is also the point where you would be wanting to stuff so that the straw is held in place. And now the straw stays in point at that point. So for row 19, I am going to be single crocheting 8. 8. Yep. And then single crochet 3 together. I'm using the invisible decreases. So pick up the front loop of the 3 stitches that I want to bind together. Yarn over and pull the loop through all 3, and then yarn over and pull the loop through both these. There's my decrease. And then single crochet 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then single crochet 3 together. There. Single crochet 4. 1, 2, 3. 4, another single crochet 3 together, and then single crochet 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, excuse me. Single crochet 3 together, single crochet 4, single single crochet 3 together, single crochet 4, and then one final single crochet 3 together that jumps into the beginning of row 20. Now this still counts as the end of the row because the center stitch, the one that technically stayed, is the last stitch of the row. Now your total should be 36. I'll do a quick count just to be sure. 36, yep. Okay, and for the next row, single crochet 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, single crochet 3 together, single crochet 2, single crochet 3 together, two single crochet, and then single crochet 3 together, and then single crochet 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to take this out. Single crochet 3 together, two single crochet, remove this, single crochet 3 together, two single crochet, one last single crochet 3 together, and one final single crochet to close off the round. And that should bring us to 24 stitches. And now for row 21, we need to once again have 3 single crochet 3 togethers in very specific locations. So single crochet 4, 2, 3, 4, and then 3 single crochet 3 togethers, 1, 2, and 3, 3 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and now once again 3 single crochet 3 together. And yep, about what I figured. The last one, the one that brings us down to 12, it jumps into the start of the next row. Now, if your drift was different than mine, you may not have things lined quite like this. You might be able to get away with not having your decreases lined right in the middle of right across the beginning and end of a row. At this point, that's as narrow as I dare let the opening get. Now it's time to stuff it. It always takes more stuffing than you think it will, so we're going to be packing this little guy pretty firmly. And if you did the yarn feed version, this would also be the point where you're able to finish stuffing. Being careful not to knock your straw out of alignment. I am doing my best to tear up the stuffing into little cotton balls before putting them in, because that way it stays relatively evenly distributed. Well, the other reason I'm tearing up my stuffing into pretty small chunks is because this stuffing, it's pretty packed, so tearing it up helps it regain some of its fluff. I will admit, I had never used this type of yarn before, so my tension at the beginning might have been a little bit wonky, hence why I'm trying to really, really pack it in there. Just about there. Let's see. Okay. Alright, now row 22 is going to be just 6 decreases. And I'm not even going to bother putting my marker back in because it is so close. And finish off. Okay, now we just take the tail and pull it and loop it gently through the front loops of each of these stitches. So we can close off that little booty. Come on. Tuck it shut like a drawstring bag, and then gently pull it down and out of sight. That's a tuck to make sure it's actually tight, and then poke that little end on the inside, give it one final squish. Yeah, the face is a little lumpy, but by the time we're done with it, by the time I'm done with it, that'll stay flat. Boop. There's the body nugget. Alright, now that we have made the body, it's time to make the legs. For row 1, we need a magic ring of 6. And then for row 2, we're going to be making 6 increases to bring the total up to 12 stitches. And now I'll put that marker in. I tend to wait until after the first row, especially if I know I'm going to be increasing. Okay. Row 3 is 6 repeats of an increase and a single crochet to bring our total up to 18 stitches. 2, 17, 18. Next 5 rows will be just 18 single crochet around for a grand total of 90 single crochet. Nine, 90. Now you can see what kind of drift I've got. But this is totally fine. Okay. Row 9 is 6 repeats of a decrease and a single crochet to bring us down to 12 stitches. Now, need to stuff this leg. Need to be stuffed relatively firmly. Got enough on the first try. And row 10 is just 6 decreases, bringing us down to 6 stitches. And finish off. Now I'm just going to weave in the ends. Well, just close off the end. And tuck that end away inside. That's one leg. And of course, we'll need 6 of them. All right. And that's the last I'm going to be doing with color A. Now it's time to make the pedipalps, which I will need color B for. Now this is not the same yarn as color A, so what I'm going to do might be a little different, but I'll make sure that the instructions I put on screen works. And technically it would work if the 2 yarns matched. Because mine don't, I'm probably going to have to adjust things so that everything is even. But this is also my chance to show off how my yarn feed Arachknit works. I have wound this up as a center pole so that it stays still. And I'll just thread my yarn through it. Make sure I've got some slack. There's my straw. Plunk it in. It's in there. Got it. Now, boop. The yarn is feeding from inside. Row 1 is a magic ring of 6. Pull that tight. Row 2 is 6 increases, bringing the total up to 12 stitches. I'm gonna grab one of those legs and compare it, because this is where my pattern stops, but I want to be sure. Actually, it should be fine. Because the point is just the size. It has to be smaller than the legs, but it's more or less the same shape. Now the next 5 rows is just 12 single crochet around for a grand total of 60 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60. Now we're going to stuff it. Now I'm going to keep the stuffing relatively light this time because I am working some yarn in a looser gauge than I normally would. So the stitches are a little bit gappier. I don't want to stuff it too firmly, or else the stuffing will show. So keeping it fairly light. And now, row 8 is just 6 repeats of a decrease, bringing us down to 6 stitches. Six. And finish off. Make sure the stuffing stays in there. Pull it tight. And feed the end inside. And there it is. Just a little tater tot. And of course, you're going to need 2 of them. So, to talk about the styrofoam ball. It's best to try to get a ball that is the size you want, but if you're not sure just how big your Arachknit is going to be, or you just can't find the right size, too small is better than too big. Because you can always add a bit more yarn to bulk it up. This is the display yarn ball for your Arachknit. Now, as it stands now, it rolls a great deal. So I'm gonna be taking this. Out to the tool shed to slice off the bottom of it. Now for assembly. We have all of our pieces here. And one just hit the floor. There it is. We have all our pieces here. Hey Rock, when you have a minute, since this is your little guy, while I am getting the foam ball ready for wrapping, you need to decide how the legs are being pinned on, and also decide what color the eyes actually are. Yeah, I showed blue in my little example just so that I had a color there, but that was not a guarantee. Okay, reset the timer back to 30. Hello. How's it going? I mean, I'm not pinning them, but you know. There. And as for colors, for the eyes, I don't know, blue. So you're gonna go with the blue, yeah. Like I did. Okay. I'm probably even gonna use the same blue. So yeah, to assemble this little guy, I'm gonna be pinning the legs on at a bit of an angle because this guy, the body is tilted. Yep, this is an Arachknit. Oh, hi. Okay, I'm going to just kind of quick and dirty skewer them in place first so that they don't fall out of alignment, and then adjust the pinning afterward. There. So this one's fine. Move this one just a little bit down. And then there. And the last leg is going to go about there. And if you get all the legs correct, it can stand on its own and still have that tilt. That little tilt that the body has. And the eyes will go here. And here. And the palps go there, over, you may notice this little chap is missing something. Another couple of eyes. So, now for the eyes, you're going to need your two colors. You're going to need black and I asked Rock, she said she was fine with blue. Okay, in order to make the eyes, row 1 is one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and pull it tight. But actually, I'm going to be changing colors. Because I need the first stitch of the next row to be in blue. So I'm backing up. And this yarn is too thin by itself to go with the black I'm using, which is why I've got 2 of them out here. So, I'm going to pinch these at the base of the stitch, yarn over, pull through, tighten that down, and then I'm going to tie these off so that they stay secure. Okay, note to self, switch to Form of Agony. And then for row 2 of the eyes, I'll be increasing every stitch, but I'll be specifically stitching into the back loops only. So every stitch has 2 little loops, the front loop and the back loop. I had been working into both loops nearly the entire time, with the occasional front loop for increases, but now I'm going to be doing increases in the back loop only. 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And how's this look on the big guy? Oh, yep, that works. And finish off. And of course, you will need 2 eyes. And that's actually it for the crochet part. Everything that's left is assembly. Okay, so for sewing, I've got a couple of options. There, got myself a length of purple. Boop. Okay, I committed to sewing on this leg, so I will sew on this leg. I actually kind of want to sew the eyes on first. I'll sew the legs on. Oh, that's what happened. Alright. Yep, this little guy is a complete party. I'm going to put a pin here just to try to hold this out of the way. Secure that, and then feed this over. Including this end, actually. Alright. Must rethread my needle. Alright, so that's one side down. Time to sew down the other side. Okay, take the eyes off. Because next I have to attach the palps. And the palps technically are connected above that starting oval. Just not quite as high as I had pinned them, which probably had aided in the derpy look. There. Yep, right about there. Now time to rethread this. May as well just keep using purple. There. Now I just need his eyes. Let's see. I'm going to use my little friend here as a guide. The big colorful peepers are going, each one is basically almost immediately over the palp. That's better. Yeah, that was a much better pinning job than the first one. And I'm going to be stitching through the back loops only, so that it stays a fairly crisp edge. It's going to be a little close. I pinned it a little bit farther down than I really meant to. I wanted to put a row between... I wanted to put one row between the eye and the palp, but it's fine. And then tie this off. Now it's gonna look kind of soulless, but that can easily be fixed by adding some little white highlights. I am not gonna worry about giving this little guy highlights, partly because I don't have a lot of white yarn on hand, and the yarn I do have is kind of dull. It would look weird next to the pristine white buttons. And two, so that Rock could have some fun, because this is for her. Come on. Okay, all that's left for sewing is the buttons. And the buttons go essentially between the main eyes and the front legs. Boop. Now, my little tapestry needle will not go through those holes. Just too small. So I'm going to be using this. Where do I want to secure this string? I'm actually going to tie it to the button. Just to make sure that the string, come on, stop spinning. Just to make sure it stays put long enough for me to tie it down. Right. Right there. And this comes up through here. Secure that. And then gotta secure this eye. Tuck in. So there it is. Again, a little bit dead-eyed by comparison, but I expect that after a certain point Rock will get some of her white yarn and stitch on some little sparkles. Give it some personality. Now all that's left is to, okay, excuse me, you go over here. Finish the ball. The display yarn ball. Now I took this out to the tool shed and I gave it a flat bottom so that it can actually sit without rolling. And now just need to wrap it up. Maybe I'll save. Nah, there. Which is why this yarn has still been sitting over here. I just wrap until I can't see any bare foam. And I may or may not actually have enough yarn in this particular skein for that, but Brock gave me 2, so. Here's what you need. And yet tying up, completely hiding the faux ball has there's a couple of reasons for doing that. One, well, the fact that I cut the bottom off of this ball means that it sheds a little. So wrapping it up limits the shedding. And the fibers are conglomerating. Come on, untie. Thank you. I said untie. So that was one. Now I need to get at the other one. Now I'm not expecting to stay on camera while winding, because that's just running the risk of smacking the camera. And I don't see any foam, so that's it. Cut a decent tail so that I can wrap it around somehow. And there it is. It's got a little bit of wobble just because winding it up, the bottom is no longer flat, but it stays. Now, if you want to do like the Spirit City hat has, and put some knitting needles through it, that's easy enough to do. You would just take your knitting needles and just carefully push them. It's gonna sound like an oxymoron, but you carefully force the knitting needles through the yarn ball. Yeah, well, through the foam ball, and then you wrap it with yarn. I mean, you probably could impale it after it's been wrapped, but that would be a little bit... How easy that would be depends on how sharp your knitting needles are. Size 7s are not all that sharp. But yeah, this is the rainbow Arachknit that I have made for my sister. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye!